Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know, from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
What's going on, guys? You're listening to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. I'm your host on Mondays and on Thursdays, Casey Foreman. This podcast is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome in, guys. Welcome to today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. I've been saying this, I feel like, ever since... what was it? I think free agency kicked off a couple of weeks ago. We're getting closer and closer to the official tip-off. It's only been a handful of weeks since we've known, when the official tip-off of the NBA is. So obviously December 22nd, and over these past couple of days, we've had the NBA's preseason kickoff. I really haven't had a chance to cover these games so far. Not too much to talk about. These games don't mean anything, obviously, but that doesn't mean they aren't somewhat important. Looking at these games, it gives us, some insight as far as what these teams are going to be looking like, what these final lineups are going to be looking like for the season. But so far from the preseason, I've really liked what I've seen from the Los Angeles Lakers. That is kind of a no-brainer, but from all of their off-season additions, even without LeBron or Anthony Davis playing in either of their first two preseason games, they beat the Clippers both times. At least I think they beat them in the second showing. They were winning handily last time I checked in, but still, and both times, in both efforts, I think like Talen Horton-Tucker for the Lakers, and both showings showed out, had 33 points and 10 rebounds in the second game. I'm not sure what his first stat line was in the first game. I know he played well in both games, solidifying his role for this Laker team coming off the bench. Hopefully Frank Vogel obviously noticed what we all noticed, and he now has a place in that lineup. I think it is now time for him to have a place in this lineup. I really liked what I saw from him in both showings, especially in that second game, again with 33 and 10. So watch out with the Lakers. Marc Gasol is looking like the best passing center in basketball with all these passes I've seen him pull off. He looks like a great addition to the team. Montrezl Harrell is already playing with a chip on his shoulder against his former team. So I think he is going to be a fantastic addition for the Lakers as well. Dennis Schroeder, really haven't seen too much from him, if any from him. Either way, we're going to see opening night against the Clippers. What this team can truly do with the help of LeBron and Anthony Davis. So can't wait for opening night. I really like also, while discussing the preseason, I really like what I've seen so far from the Golden State Warriors, a team I am recommending to all of you listening. I am recommending you do the same as me, and don't sleep on the Golden State Warriors. This is still a very capable roster, a very good roster, led by a two-time MVP in Steph Curry. We know Steph is going to be Steph, but with the addition of Kelly Oubre Jr., Andrew Wiggins, James Wiseman, Eric Paschall as well. So these guys are long, they are versatile defensively. Don't sleep on this team. I think Golden State is going to surprise a whole lot of people. Really like what I saw from them in just their one preseason game against the Nuggets. The Brooklyn Nets as well with KD and Kyrie. You can pretty much tell this is going to be one of those things that works right away. When Kevin went to Golden State, it was kind of like that. We knew they were going to be great right away. So I think it's not to that extent, not to that degree, but obviously it's not to that degree. It's not a Golden State 4 Hall of Famers, roster, but still, it's in the same sense where it's going to work. work relatively early. Even in their first preseason games, Kyrie goes for 19, KD goes for 15. Both are efficient. Nets win the game on them playing, not necessarily significant minutes. So really like what I saw from them. I think it's going to work right away. So yeah, the preseason, again, I think we're starting to know what these rosters are really gonna be looking like, what these lineups are really gonna be looking like. I've really liked what I've seen so far in the preseason. But as far as what today's episode is going to be looking like, my bad, guys, I have yet to even touch on that. As far as what I want to discuss in the entirety of today's podcast, I want to take a look at the official standings of next year. Some predictions, and give you guys my prediction, my official prediction for the standings, both West and East, how both conferences are going to stack up. I'm going to give you guys my official predictions. Again, we're already like 6 minutes into the show today. Holy cow. Let's jump right into it today. Again, let's cover my official predictions for the standings in both the East and the Western Conference. We're about a week away now, guys, from the official tip-off of the 2020-2021 season. Super excited. And again, I think it's safe to say, we aren't really sure what several teams are going to be looking like next year. Again, Golden State's a little bit of a question mark. Houston's a question mark. How are the Clippers bounce back? There are several question mark teams out there. But now with the preseason, with us being so close to the start of the regular season, we now know, what several teams are going to be looking like on the other end. We've had big roster moves and changes. We've had injuries like Klay Thompson going down. So we've had players returning from injury like Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, so DeMarcus Cousins, so John Wall. We've had players come back from injury, players get injured, have major injuries. So we pretty much know now, like I said earlier, what most teams are going to be looking like. However, there are still some of those question marks out there, like the couple of teams I listed. So we do know more than we have. However, like I said, we still have some question marks out there. But again, we are so close, a little bit over a week away now. Super excited for the season. I am. I think it's going to be a super competitive run to even make the postseason in both conferences, especially obviously, at the tail end of both conferences. So I'm super excited. I think we're going to have a really competitive run to the postseason this year. And again, since we are so close and we know, roughly who will and who won't be playing, let's take a look at both the East and the Western Conference now. I'll predict the win and the loss, and the win and the loss lines, and then the official standings where they stack up in the conference as well. So let's start with the Western Conference. Okay, the best conference in basketball. We'll start from the top to the bottom. Most relevant to I don't want to say least relevant, but yeah, obviously least relevant. So number one seed in the Western Conference, I think it's going to be the Los Angeles Lakers, and I don't think that is necessarily too hot of a take. Last year, obviously the number one seed, I am predicting them to be around 48 wins. Last year they did eclipse the 50 win mark. However, and they did improve. I don't want to say they're taking a step back, and that's why. The only reason I'm saying that they might win a couple of less games this year is because, they just won, the championship a couple of months ago, less than a couple of months ago. LeBron, I think, is going to take more time off in the regular season because of having, the shortest regular season. Him and the Miami Heat, the Lakers and the Heat, obviously having the shortest off season in history. So because of that, I think LeBron will be missing, I don't want to say significant time, but he said it himself. He's going to be cherry picking the first half of the season. So he will be missing some time. He will be, quote, load managing, if you will. So because of that, they will be losing, a couple of more games in comparison to if he was on the court, obviously. So I know they won 50 games last year. Not saying they're going to take any way of a step back in any way. Either way, 48 wins. They're going to be the number one seed in the Western Conference, and they improved, which is a scary aspect when you're talking about the reigning champs, and they improved. Again, the only reason I say a couple of wins less than last year because LeBron may be taking more time off. Might have slightly less than 50 wins this year, and it is only a 72-game season in comparison to the regular 82 games. So 10 games less this year, same as about last year. So we can kind of compare it to last season. So I think they will be close to that 50-win mark again, like they were last year. And again, they have solved their biggest question, the biggest issues on the roster have been answered, have been solved. That was obviously the depth and the bench, okay, and the third scoring option. They have addressed every question and concern honestly possible, and honestly on top of that, in comparison to what LeBron kind of did last year, I think Anthony Davis will be going for the MVP this year. Last year, obviously, it was blatantly obvious he was going for the Defensive Player of the Year. He was playing like it, he was saying it, everyone was putting his name out there, so he was playing for the Defensive Player of the Year. I think he will go after that perhaps this year as well, since he was eclipsed by Giannis, obviously, but I think he will also be going for the MVP award. We'll maybe be wanting to match Giannis with the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year. Obviously, if you've been listening to me, I have Luka winning the award, followed by Steph. AD could very well be third in that conversation next year. But since AD will be going for that MVP award, I wouldn't be surprised if they did get 50 wins, because I think he will be playing more than LeBron, being the younger player, barring any injuries or anything. So I think he will be playing more than LeBron. He'll be going after perhaps that MVP award. So maybe we'll have an even better stat line in comparison to last year. So I think AD might even take a step forward. If he in fact does, with no injuries, this Laker team could easily get 50 wins. I'm kind of playing it safe with the whole 48 wins here. But again, they could easily get to 50 wins. But again, in my opinion, Lakers remain the number one seed. And again, they're the reigning champs, and they improved. That's scary. I think they hold on to that number one seed for 2 consecutive years. Let's move on to number 2. A couple of minutes to the break, so we'll only be able to cover a little bit of the number 2 seed. But at number 2, but again, if you missed the prediction for the what was it? 48-24 was my official prediction for the Lakers. I don't know if I said that. So 48-24 for the Lakers for the 1 seed. At the number 2 seed, I'm predicting the Los Angeles Clippers to have the 2 seed in the Western Conference. My official prediction for them is 45-27. So they'll be around 3 to 5 games, I think, behind the Lakers, which they were this year or this past year as well. So I think the Clippers will be that number 2 seed at 45-27. And I do think that they will take the regular season more seriously this year, because last year we know they kind of coasted. Kawhi picked his nights. He load managed the entire season. Paul George and Kawhi. We've heard several stories come out from maybe Montrezl Harrell and several people leaving the team, JaMychal Green as well, saying they did not like the way they were given such higher treatment, such special treatment in comparison to everybody else, when they weren't necessarily even getting that much more of output of performance from them. So those stories have been released, and because of all of those things, they have a new head coach. They ended up coming up short, blowing the 3-1 lead last year. I do think the Clippers take the regular season much more seriously. I am putting them at the number 2 slot. They could very well be the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, kind of do the Lakers what they did last year, take the regular season super serious, get their chemistry right, get the team right, and really try to win the regular season. So I could very well see the Clippers doing what the Lakers did last year, and I could very well see the Lakers taking a little bit of a step back, saying, hey, we're the champs, we know we're the best team, we're going to not necessarily pick and choose our nights, but yeah, we're going to pick and choose, and we're going to simply get ready for the postseason. I think the Clippers will do the opposite of that, really take the regular season as seriously as they can, really truly try and prepare for that postseason when they do in fact get there. The only thing with me and this Clipper team, the only thing really keeping me from putting them at the number one spot is that I'm not really in love with this roster. Yes, they did improve, adding pieces like Luke Kennard, who averaged 14, 15 points a game last year, Serge Ibaka, Nicholas Batum. So yes, they definitely improved, but lost pieces like Montrezl Harrell. I think he might have been the biggest piece that they lost. Overall, though, not in love with this roster. That's the biggest thing keeping me from putting them at the number one spot. I'm going to take a quick break, like I said a couple of minutes ago. When I come back, we'll continue discussing the Los Angeles Clippers at that number two spot. Don't go anywhere. I will be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, guys. Like I said before the break, let's continue discussing the Los Angeles Clippers. I think they will be the number 2 seed in the Western Conference next year. The only reason, the biggest reason, I should say, not the only reason, but the biggest reason I don't have them at the number 1 spot, despite me thinking they will be taking the regular season more seriously than last year. The biggest thing keeping me from the number 1 seed, or keeping them, is the fact that I'm just not in love with this roster. I saw what they did last year. I'm not the biggest fan of their number 2 star in Paul George. Not the most consistent player in my mind. Not the guy I would want as my second best player. So because of that, because of those reasons, I cannot put them at number 1. But I can definitely put them as the second best team in the Western Conference. 45-27 is what I'm predicting. They did add some nice pieces like Luke Kennard, 14, 15, near 16 points per game last year. So Duke can score on his own. Serge Ibaka, a veteran. Nicholas Batum, a veteran guy. So all these guys can hopefully step in and translate right away for this Clipper roster. But I think they did prove last year they are beatable. Okay, they're not this unbeatable 2 stars with the 2 scorers coming off the bench. They're not that team anymore. Even with that team, that was quite a bit overhyped, as I was saying all year long. But still, I didn't say they were overhyped. I just said I thought the Lakers would beat them. So maybe I said they were overhyped. Yes, I did. Props to me. But still, they proved they were not beatable last year. So they proved they were beatable. I'm sorry, they were not unbeatable last year. And again, I do think they will have a very good regular season. I think they will take it a little bit of a day at a time in comparison to last year. Like I said, they did last year. It was basically, as we know, they're looking to the postseason. They're looking to the Western Conference Final. We're looking at the Los Angeles Lakers. Everyone said it. Everyone on the Clipper side was saying it at least. This team is built to beat the Lakers. The Lakers have no chance at beating them. The Clippers were solely focusing on that one team. Did not take the Denver Nuggets serious enough. Did not take their regular season serious enough. So because of all that, I think they will do the opposite this year. Take it somewhat one day at a time. They are the second best team in the Western Conference, in my opinion. I could very well see, like I said before the break, I could very well see the Lakers kind of pulling a Clippers of last year somewhat and not taking the regular season as seriously as they did last year, and then the Clippers on the other end of it, I could very well see them taking the regular season more serious and then perhaps getting the better record out of the two. We will see. However, I think it's unlikely the Clippers pass the Lakers for the number one slot because of all of the improvements that Laker roster has made. Again, Marc Gasol, Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell, Wesley Matthews, man, and they all haven't even played together. Talen Horton-Tucker's going off so far. I'm loving what I'm seeing from the Lakers. I don't think there's anything that can change my mind that they're going to be the number one seed next year. Knocking on wood, barring any injury to any major player. So Lakers at number one, Clippers at number two, number three. I think Denver remains as kind of the third best regular season team in the Western Conference. My official prediction for them win-loss is 42-30 at the number 3 seed in the Western Conference. We did see this team last year hit its stride in the postseason, coming back from 2 3-1 comebacks from two pretty good teams, one very good team in the Clippers. So, and then one, the Utah Jazz, still a very good team. So, coming back from 3-1 on very good teams. Yes, maybe they shouldn't have been down 3-1 in the first place, but they come back. They are resilient. They are comeback kids. You can't ever sleep on this roster. I learned that. That is honestly the biggest reason I'm putting them at the number 3 slot. I was thinking, I didn't think they would be number 3 last year, quite honestly. I didn't think they'd be that good, and they kind of taught me a lesson. Like I said, didn't think they were going to come back from 3-1 twice, and they proved me wrong twice. So I'm not going to count them out anymore. I have Denver as the third best team in the Western Conference at 42-30. Biggest thing for Denver at remaining a top team in the Western Conference, being that number 3 seed. Biggest thing for them, they need Murray, Jokic, and Porter Jr. to continue to develop, and they really need Murray and Jokic to pick up right where they left off in the bubble, especially Murray. He was going off showing us all-star numbers. Obviously, we know Jokic is one of the best centers, if not the best center in the league. But Murray was showing us something we haven't necessarily seen from him. All-star potential, all-star, not even potential, all-star game. And if he can pick up right where we left off, I have nothing but confidence in Denver to be the number 3 seed to win over 40 games next year. But again, they need Jokic and Murray to pick up right where they left off. They need Porter and Bol, especially Porter, though. They need both of those guys to continue to develop. Porter really has to take a bigger role next year, be the official number 3 guy on the roster. Bol has to continue to develop. We know he's going to be a little bit more of a project. We know the talent and the potential is there, though, for Bol. So both Porter and Bol got to develop. Murray and Jokic hopefully pick up right where they left off in the bubble. That is the biggest thing that's going to contribute to Denver's success. And Murray, like I said, Murray has got to be consistent. If he can pick up right where he left off, great. He's got to be that consistently. That's the biggest knock on him. That was probably the biggest reason we saw them going down 3-1, the inconsistent play from Murray and Jokic. So, and then when they were consistent, they won games. They come back from 3-1, okay? So we know the ceiling on this team. We kind of seen them at full stride. But again, we haven't seen Porter at full strength. We haven't seen his full potential. So this team can improve. But again, the biggest thing is Murray, Jokic coming back the same way, and then Murray being more consistent. The team should continue to improve. And again, I have learned not to sleep on the Denver Nuggets. Denver is my prediction for the number 3 seed, 42-30. Number 4. Okay, at number 4, and this might surprise, this might shake up your guys' prediction or standings a little bit, but this is how high I am on this team. This is how much I am predicting you guys should not sleep on this roster. At number 4, I'm going with the Golden State Warriors, I think will have around the number 4 seed, no matter what. I think the 4 seed through the 7th or 8th seed even perhaps will be even 2 or 3 games within each other. So the 4th through 8th seed, as we've seen through the last couple of years, will be very close, even the 3 seed through 8 seed. So it all will be very close towards the bottom end of the standings for the Western Conference. But I'm predicting Golden State to get that number 4 slot at 40 and 32 ish. Again, ish. The 4 and 8 slots are going to be pretty close, but I predict them to be at 40 and 32. Get 40 wins next year. And I know they are missing all-star, all-NBA, in my opinion, guard in Klay Thompson. This is one of the best, second-best shooting guard in all of basketball to James Harden, in my opinion, when he's 100% healthy. So I know exactly, believe me, I know exactly what Golden State is missing. And maybe I am overreacting to simply one preseason game that I really liked what I saw. So maybe I'm doing a little bit of overreaction here. Either way, I'm going to continue on my path. I really like what I saw from them in their first preseason game against the Nuggets. And I really think the Warriors have the potential to be a very good basketball team on both sides of the basketball, both offensively and defensively. Obviously, they're being led by 2-time MVP Steph Curry. Steph is going to be Steph. In my opinion, he's the biggest playmaker, biggest shooter in all of basketball. He's coming back with a chip on his shoulder. He hears all of the talk revolving him and his team, so he hears everything. He's coming back with a chip on his shoulder after having, yes, a year of rest. So he's coming back hopefully better than ever. And again, they still have a very young and versatile and long group backing up Steph Curry. Andrew Wiggins, Kelly Oubre Jr., Eric Pascal, James Wiseman. This is a long, versatile defensive team. I think they all are starting to really care about the defensive side of the ball. Steve Kerr, we've heard Oubre say it since he got there. Wiggins say it since right away when he got there. We have got to put more effort on the defensive side of the ball, try to really make our money on that side of the ball just in case shots aren't falling. We can always rely on our versatile defense. So they are not simply relying on their Golden State offensive firepower as we've seen in the past, but even in the past we've seen Golden State with the great offenses they've had. They've usually had a top 5, top 10 defense to back that up. So they're just as good, not just as good, but pretty damn good on the defensive side of the ball still. And again, a very long and defensive and versatile team in Wiggins, Oubre, Pascal, Wiseman, Green. That's a long and again versatile group right there. And then their bench, as far as who they have backing up their starting guys, it is very capable in my opinion. Brad Wanamaker, a guy very good in his role as a backup point guard. Kent Bazemore, a veteran guy who can come in and give you 10 to 12 points, hopefully per game when you need him. Damian Lee, a knockdown 3-point shooter when you need him. Kevon Looney, now somewhat more of a veteran presence at the center and power forward position, a veteran in the Warriors offense for sure. So Wanamaker, Bazemore, Lee, and Looney off the bench. Also Jordan Poole. I don't sleep on Jordan Poole next year. I think he has improved over the offseason again. And then in the starting lineup, Steph, Wiggins, Oubre, Green, Wiseman, and then obviously Pascal. We'll see what they do with him as far as coming off the bench or starting. But man, that's a very capable and versatile group. Again, Draymond as well. I know most people have said, yes, he has lost a step. But has he lost that much of a step? I think he will be coming back. Not better than ever, but I think he will be more like himself, more Draymond-esque. He has heard all of the talk. He's had a long off season as well to get himself right. He's lost a little bit of his motor, a little bit of his step. Hopefully he can get a little bit of that back. The conditioning needs to be better for Draymond as well. So Draymond is said to be coming back though. Like I said, with an edge, with a chip on his shoulder. They're hearing all the talk surrounding him, so he hears it. Steph hears it, and then they have a group of guys who is very capable to go along with them. As far as what we need to see from them, as far as what we need to see from the Warriors for them to be the number 4 seed, we need to see Steph be around the 28 to 30 points per game, which he will be. So Steffi needs to be around 28 to 30 points per game, around 7.5 assists. And then as far as percentages go, we know he's always going to be somewhat efficient, pretty efficient, 50% from the field. We've seen him go 50, 40, 90. I don't know if he will be able to do that because of the volume of shots he's going to have to be taking, but he will perhaps be around the 50, 40, 90, 28 to 30 points, 7 to 8 assists per night with 5 rebounds, which is usually what he gets. And again, he was getting 26, 27 points per game with a healthy Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson, by his side. Without those two guys, with him leading the offense, he's going to be getting around 30 points per game, 7, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. Taking 7, 8 3-pointers a game probably. As far as what you need from Andrew Wiggins has got to be around the 22, maybe even if he can score 23 points per night, that would be phenomenal. So if Wiggins can be 22, 23 points per night, 5 or so rebounds, maybe 4 or 5 assists, that's exactly what you need from Andrew Wiggins. We'll see. He's been a consistent 20-point-a-night scorer his entire career. Hopefully he can take a slight step up here in Golden State. Guys, I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, we'll continue discussing the number 4 seed Golden State, and we'll move on to see who I think will be at that number 5 slot. Don't go anywhere. I will be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, guys, welcome back. Like I said before the break, let's continue on discussing the Golden State Warriors, my prediction for the number 4 seed in the Western Conference. Okay, so let's continue on. Again, what they need from Steph Curry, around 28 to 30 points per night, 7, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, and then he'll be shooting anywhere from 7 to 9 3-pointers per night, more than likely. That's exactly what they need and exactly what I think they're going to get from the 2-time MVP, having another MVP caliber season. He will be their leader next year. As far as what they need from Andrew Wiggins now, probably going to be their second scoring option, more than likely now, second or third. So what they need from him, he's been a consistent 20-point-a-night scorer his entire career. They need a slight step up from Andrew Wiggins. What I've been hearing so far from him, is that he is ready to do so with all the support they've given him, all the people around him, the talent around him. He is finally ready to step into a bigger role in his career, especially in Golden State. He did just get here, ready to take a bigger step forward in the lineup as far as roles go as well. So what they need from Wiggins, 22 to 23 points per night, as well as 5 or so rebounds and 5 or so assists. So we'll see. I think that's exactly what they need. I think they will get that as well. I really liked what I saw from him so far in preseason and training camp. He came out firing right away. As far as what I've been hearing from him, they're giving him the confidence to do so. So I'm liking what I've been hearing revolving Andrew Wiggins. Also defensively, I've heard he's making that a much bigger part of his game. Really like what I've been seeing and hearing revolving Andrew Wiggins. Yes, maybe before the trade happened, I don't know if I was here at GSMC by then, but on record, I was not the biggest fan of the of the whole Wiggins for D'Angelo Russell trade. I was not, even on record, I was not the biggest fan of that trade. However, now I think he is filling the role for the Warriors that is needed, and I think he was the better fit in comparison to both of those players. I know he is the better fit, and I think that trade is really paying off right now. Really like what I've been hearing as far as Andrew Wiggins, Kelly Oubre Jr., the guy they just traded a first-round pick for, and then as far as their cap goes, the big cap hit it's going to take because they're going over the luxury tax or whatever. So we know how big a deal it was to get Kelly Oubre Jr. in Golden State. What they need from him is around what he did last year, around 18. If you can push the 18 points up to about 20, 21 points per night, that would be phenomenal. But more than likely, Oubre is going to be around the 18 point a night. Again, they need that from him, 18 points per night, and then they need him to be a versatile dog on the defensive side of the ball. He said it himself. He wants to start being recognized for his defensive game. He wants to make all defensive team, NBA all defensive team. So he's going to start putting even more effort on the defensive side of the ball. And again, since as soon as he got to Golden State, similar to what Andrew Wiggins said, they told him that is where you need to put your focus, the defensive side of the ball. We know how talented you are offensively. Let's really start developing you, start working you on the defensive side of the ball. So similar for Wiggins and Oubre, both guys have been around the 18 to 20 point mark. I need both of them. The Warriors need both of them to take a slight step forward. 18 to 20 for Oubre, 22 to 23 from Wiggins. As far as what Draymond Green needs to do, needs to be around 12, 7, and 7 for Draymond Green. Again, 12.7 rebounds, 7 assists, very capable. That is contributing a whole lot for Draymond Green. 12, 7, and 7. For the rookie or second year guy, I should say, Eric Paschall, should be around 13 to 14 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists per game. A really versatile guy. He'll be a big piece on the defensive side of the ball as well. For the rookie and James Wiseman wrapping up the Warriors, he needs to be around 12, 13 points per night, 7 to 9 rebounds with a block per game. So 12 to 13 points, 7 to 9 rebounds with a block per game is what Wiseman needs to be at. But again, Golden State, a very capable team here led by Steph Curry. Do not sleep on the Golden State Warriors. Let's pick it up a notch here, or take it up a notch here. Whole lot of teams to cover for the rest of the show. Number 5 slot in the Western Conference now. I am predicting the Dallas Mavericks to be the number 5th seed in the Western Conference. I think they will be around similar to the Warriors, around the 40 and 32 mark. Again, the 5th through 6th, the 5th through 8th seed is going to be pretty close in record, more than likely. But either way, I have the Dallas Mavericks being at number 5. This team definitely improved in the offseason, adding Josh Richardson, James Johnson, Tyrell Terry, the rookie they drafted, can shoot the heck out of the ball as well. I'm super excited to see what Luka can do next year. I think he can and will have an MVP caliber year. He is my favorite, my pick to win the MVP next year. I've been saying this, I think, ever since last year, in the middle of last year. I think one more year, this guy's going to be an MVP in the league. I've been saying this for a long time now. It's finally paying off. Everyone else is seeing it now as well. But I think Luka's going to have an MVP caliber year next year. He's going to be around 30 plus points per game, around 8 or 9 rebounds, around 8 or 9 assists as well. We'll see if he can take a step up defensively as well. That's the biggest knock on his game. We'll see if he can take a step up defensively. Either way, he's going to be around or over the 30 points per game mark, around the 9 or 10 assists, 9 or 10 rebounds per game, having an MVP level season. And you shouldn't forget what we saw from this team at the end of last year, at the beginning, I should say, of the postseason last year. We saw this Maverick team pretty much without a Kristaps Porzingis for the majority of the series, go 6 games with the Los Angeles Clippers. Obviously, last year, we know they were the favorites all year, so they go 6 games in the first round with the favorites, the Los Angeles Clippers. So that is super impressive, and I think this team improved, and I'm expecting Luka to be an even better player than last year. So with all of these things, if Luka can play the way I am expecting him to be, if Kristaps Porzingis Porzingis can be healthy throughout the season, which is a big if. He is a big question mark, a big if his question mark, or his health is, but as far as his talent, what he can do on the court when he is healthy, man, he is phenomenal. But if he can stay healthy, if Luka can take a step forward once again, and if these additions can pay off, man, I'm expecting the Dallas Mavericks to take another step forward, go from the 7th seed to the 5th seed perhaps, and win 40 games, 40-32 next year is what I'm predicting. This team is going to win some games, and I really like the Mavs going forward, really like Luka to win the MVP next year. For the 6th seed in the Western Conference now, this is tough. This is really tough because James Harden is still a Houston Rocket as of today, but that is uncertain. We have no idea how long James Harden is still going to be a Houston Rocket. Houston said they're willing to make it messy. They're willing to keep him around for as long as they need until they get the best deal possible. So Houston is willing to keep him around for the majority of the season. So again, that's the biggest question here for this Rocket franchise, and that isn't even the only question. There are so many questions for this Houston Rocket team now. I pretty much sold myself out at the number 6 slot. I am predicting the Rockets to be at number 6 just because I don't know where they're going to be at, quite frankly. I have no idea what they're going to look like. I really like the Utah Jazz. I just realized I left the Utah Jazz out of my list, and the Jazz are definitely going to have to make the postseason. So we're doing this on the fly. This is tough. I might have made this is tough, you guys. So I was predicting the Rockets to be at number 6. But again, if James Harden is a part of this Houston Rocket franchise for the majority of the season, I am predicting the Rockets to be at the number 6 slot. However, again, be around the 39-40 win mark. But however, if they do in fact end up trading James Harden and they don't have that caliber of player, I do not think this team makes the postseason in the Western Conference. Okay, I do not think, even if John Wall comes back himself, Boogie Cousins comes back somewhat himself, I do not think this team makes the playoffs in the Western Conference, making everything considered. I'm not taking them over Portland without James Harden. I'm not taking them over the Phoenix Suns either without James Harden. So I'm not taking them over Utah either without James Harden. So all things considered, they need James Harden to be a playoff team right now. Since they do have James, we'll say he's going to be a part of the roster going forward. But again, so many questions on this Houston Rocket team. John Wall's health, DeMarcus Cousins, his health, and then the biggest question, obviously, James Harden, where will he be? Will he be a part of the roster of this team moving forward, or will he get what he wants, be a part of the 76ers, of the Bucks, of the Brooklyn Nets? Where will James Harden land, or will he simply continue to be a Houston Rocket? If he does stay around in Houston, I do think the Rockets make the postseason. However, again, that's the biggest question for the Rockets. Will James Harden be around? If so, they make the postseason. If not, they do not. Wall and Cousins, I should say, both Wall and Cousins looked promising in their preseason debuts, in their Rocket debuts. So they did look impressive. We'll see if they can remain healthy for the entirety of this season. That is obviously the biggest question mark on these two guys, coming off major injuries off consecutive years. So obviously big questions in Houston. If Harden is around, I think they do make the postseason. If he is not, they do not. It is that easy. And again, if Harden is not a part of the roster, part of the franchise, I am putting the Utah Jazz at that number 6 slot. Again, really depends if they do make it. I think the Jazz will probably be the number 7th seed. Or again, I'm not too high on the Utah Jazz. I think we've seen. I think they're still a really good team, but I'm liking the Mavericks more. I'm liking the Warriors more. I'm liking, again, if the Rockets have James Harden, I'm liking the Rockets more. Portland, I think Portland is going to be similar. Portland, Phoenix, and the Jazz, I think those 3 teams are going to be pretty similar as far as record goes. So those 3 teams, I think, will be fighting for a seed towards the bottom of the conference. Otherwise, unless we see a phenomenal season from Donovan Mitchell, if we see what we've been seeing from this team, I don't see a big step forward forward for this team unless Mike Conley really starts to fit and they really start clicking. I don't really see a huge step forward for the Utah Jazz. Again, I think they could be the 6th seed if the Rockets aren't there. If they are there, maybe they're at the 7th seed. I like the Mavericks better with Luka. I like the Warriors better. I like Denver better. I like the Clippers better. Only teams I don't necessarily like more than Utah is like a Portland team, a Phoenix team, and a Rocket team without James Harden. So Utah is going to fit their way in there somewhere. Portland as well is going to fit their way in there somewhere at the bottom, I think. I think Portland more than likely might be the 7th seed in the Western Conference. We saw it kind of last year. There were a couple of injuries away from not being a deep roster whatsoever, which most teams are, obviously. But still, we saw it last year with injuries. I didn't love what I saw. Really Dame reliant and Dame reluctant. I think that does help them in the regular season, though, and that is what we're discussing. So I do think the Portland Trail Blazers make the postseason next year. They're going to be around 38, 39 wins more than likely. I'm saying my official prediction is 38 and 34 for Portland next year, making the postseason. They did add a guy like Robert Covington, a 3 and D guy, guards multiple positions for them, exactly what they need on the wing. So a great addition there, adding Covington. They brought back Carmelo, so they brought back who they needed to bring back. They will make the postseason. However, will they be a 6th seed? Will they be the 8th seed once again? Will they be a higher seed? Really depends on Dame. How much can he carry this team? The health of this team overall. And then again, the teams around them. I've seen Portland, and again, I like Golden State better. I think I'm going to like Dallas better. With James Harden in Houston, I like the Houston Rockets better. I like the Jazz better. So with Portland, it's kind of a toss-up. I do think they make the postseason. Oh, crap, 45-minute break, guys. I got to take my final break of the podcast now. When I come back, we'll finish up wrapping up the Western Conference. And, man, I did not leave much, if not any time for that Eastern Conference. We'll see what we do. Might save the Eastern Conference for the next podcast, for Thursday's podcast. I'm going to take a quick break, guys. I will be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Yes, a little bit of scrambling on my end. No problem, though. All about adjusting on the fly, right? But so welcome back. Like we said before the break, let's continue on discussing the best 8 teams, my prediction for the top 8 teams in the Western Conference. Yes, the original plan, yes, like I said before, or at the beginning of the show, was to do both the West and the Eastern Conference. Yes, I may have rambled on a little bit as I tend to do, discussing the Warriors and other teams, the Mavericks and other teams. So still, the West took a little longer than expected. So on Thursday, make sure you tune in to Thursday's podcast, because on Thursday, I will start the episode by discussing my prediction for the Eastern Conference, okay? Only about 15 or so minutes left in today's podcast, 10 or so minutes left in today's podcast. Don't want to cheat you guys, rob you of the full experience of the Eastern Conference, right? Just in case your team is one you're looking forward to listening to. Don't want to cheat you guys, or, out of listening to what you deserve to hear. So what we will do that on Thursday. As far as what we're going to do for the rest of the show today, Let's finish up discussing the top 8 teams. Yes, I think Portland will more than likely be the 7th or 6th seed. Again, the 4th through 8th seeds are going to be pretty interchangeable record-wise. So those could very well change as far as how they stack up. But I think Portland will be towards the bottom, the 6th, 7th, or 8th seed. But after discussing the 8th seed, who I think will be that 8th seed, I don't want to tell you quite yet. We will take a look at ESPN's top 10 players for next year. Take a quick look at the list, tell you guys what I think, give you guys my top 10 real quickly on the fly. Wasn't really expecting to do that today, but hey, only 10 minutes left in the show. We'll discuss this and have a little bit of fun at the end, but still. Let's finish up the main topic of today's podcast, my official prediction for how that Western Conference is gonna really stack up. So far, I think I had the Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Warriors, Dallas, and then the Rockets could very well be the 6th seed. Utah could very well be that 6th seed. Really depends on the Rockets and the James Harden trade. Number 7 could probably be a Portland team. Really depends. The Rockets could be there again. Utah could be there. Those teams are pretty interchangeable. As far as that number 8th seed, the 8th team who I think will make the postseason. Again, I've kind of discussed 9 teams because Houston could very well be. Depends on James, but still, the 8th seed who I'm predicting to be the 8th seed next year will be the Phoenix Suns. Yes, the playoff drought, if you will, for Phoenix will come to an end. The last time they made the postseason, was it being led by Mike D'Antoni with Steve Nash? Was that the last time they were in the postseason? I can't quite remember the last time I saw the Suns playing in the Western Conference playoffs. Either way, the playoff drought I am predicting will come to an end this year. They added guys who I think will contribute right away, will make a difference right away at least. Guys like Chris Paul and Jay Crowder. They're going to improve, especially guys like Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. I think both of those guys are definitely going to be better playing alongside a guy like Chris Paul, getting them the most open shots they've ever had in their entire career. So yes, both of those guys are going to improve. Chris Paul has got to be the same player he was last year in OKC, continue to lead this young roster. Jay Crowder, as we know, a very good 3-and-D player. But again, I think it will take a little bit of time. It's not going to be a kind of Kevin Durant in Golden State, Kevin Durant now in Brooklyn, I should say. Hey, a trend there, if you will. But either way, it's not going to be. I think it fits right away. They're a great team right away. I think since they are, a pretty young team, it will take a little bit of time to mesh, to click, to really figure, everybody's game out and to really, reach their full potential. Yes, I think it will take a little bit of time throughout the season. They won't be great, in their first showing. At least I don't think. But still, a very young team. I think the race for the 8th seed will be very intense. Phoenix will be racing, but again, I think they pretty much will have the 8th seed locked up. I think they're much better than teams like New Orleans, Memphis, even Houston if they don't have James Harden. So I like Phoenix a whole lot better than those teams, especially I think they will make the postseason. The drought for Phoenix will come to an end. Chris Paul, Jay Crowder will help a whole lot, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Chris Paul will have to lead these young guys, get them in their positions, get them their shots, the most open shots I think that they will have up until this point in their entire career, you could argue. So all those things, all the additions they've had, they looked great at the end of the Orlando bubble last year, going 8-0. So all of those things, I think I think Phoenix makes the 8th seed. Again, the drought comes to an end. Chris Paul makes a difference right away. It takes a little bit of time to mesh everyone's games together, but they mesh eventually, and again, the playoff drought comes to an end. So guys, those are my playoff predictions for the 8th seed. Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Warriors, Mavericks. We're going to put Utah there because we're going to put the Rockets there right now, but more than likely I'm predicting the Rockets won't make the postseason because the James Harden trade I think will go down at some point throughout the season. So I'm predicting he won't be there for too much longer, so they won't make the playoffs. But if he is there all year, they will be the 6th seed. Portland will be the 7th seed, or Utah will be the 7th seed, and then Portland, Phoenix, New Orleans, Memphis. Once again, they will all be fighting, clawing for that 8th spot in the Western Conference. Maybe we'll really see that play-in tournament be utilized. We'll have some great games perhaps in that play-in tournament. Can't wait to see it. Those are my predictions for the Western Conference. Sorry we could not get to the Eastern Conference today. We were so close, though. I should say before I move on to the MVP. Or the top 10 players the top 10 players from ESPN. We are so close to the regular season, less than a week away. Preseason has already kicked off. I've loved what I've seen from many teams in the preseason so far. Again, there are those still question marks out there, like Golden State. Some people still have a big question mark on them. The Rockets, there's a big question mark on them. So there are several teams out there where we don't necessarily. I think New Orleans also. What are we going to be seeing from this young group of guys coming back? So there's a lot of questions out there. There's also a lot of for sure, we know the Nets are going to be good. We know the Lakers are going to be good. We know the Bucks should remain pretty dominant in the Eastern Conference. So those are pretty much for sure things. Super excited to see how those question mark teams kind of play out, though. But again, let's now transition for the final 5 or so minutes of the show. Let's discuss ESPN's top 10 players, or they at least predicted who the top 10 players in the NBA will be next season. I discussed in my last podcast the 100, the full 100 list, at least the parts of the list I could see at that point in time, it being like an ESPN Plus article. I won't go into it right now. If you listen, you know my opinion on ESPN Plus and all that. But still, ESPN released their top 10 players, or the top 100 players, and then focus in on their top 10. Obviously, so let me name off who ESPN believes will be the top 10 players in the NBA next season. So number 1, LeBron James. Number 2, his teammate Anthony Davis. Number 3, Giannis. Number 4, Luka. Number 5, Kawhi. Number 6, Kevin Durant. Number 7, Damian Lillard. Number 8, Steph Curry. Number 9, James Harden. And number 10, they have the center, Nikola Jokic. So Jokic, Harden, Steph, Lillard, Durant, Leonard, Doncic, Antetokounmpo, Davis, and James are your top 10 from ESPN. I like the top 10 pretty much. I don't think they're necessarily snubbing anyone who should be. I think those are our top 10 players in basketball, but I do think that the order could be rearranged. I think a little bit of disrespect has come into my mind. The 2-time MVP in Steph Curry, having Damian Lillard being ranked over him, having even Kawhi Leonard and Luka Doncic being ranked over him. Again, great players. I can't necessarily do that for myself. So let me give you guys my top 10, my top 10 players in the league. Even predicting next season right now. Again, I think the top 10 players are legit. The order is the only thing I would change. So number 1, we'll keep LeBron at the number 1 slot. That makes nothing but sense. LeBron is still the best player in basketball. Anthony Davis being the number 2 player in all of basketball. I cannot believe that. I think Kevin Durant will be coming back, even if they said, they're predicting this as well. So predictions are coming into play here. I am predicting Kevin Durant to come back the exact same player he was before the injury. So number 1, I'm putting LeBron James. Number 2, I'm still putting Kevin Durant right there at number 2. I'm predicting him to come back just as good as ever. So LeBron James number 1, Kevin Durant at number 2. Number 3, I'm putting Steph Curry at number 3. If he comes back the same player, he's the 3rd best player in basketball because of what Kevin Durant can do, because of what LeBron James can do. You can't put him over those 2 players, obviously, but what he brings to the court, the gravity he takes on the court, on and off the court. He's a leader. He's the most unselfish player in all of basketball, the best shooter in all of basketball. I think his passing is definitely underrated. He has some of the best handles in all of basketball as well. He has definitely been underrated. A little bit of disrespect here, him being ranked 8th. So LeBron number 1, KD at number 2, Steph at number 3. Number 4, I'm going to put Kawhi at number 4. Still a great player, two-way player. He's been in championship spots, elite defensively at times, still elite offensively to go create his own shot. Kawhi's the 4th best player in all of basketball. Number 5, he's won 2 MVPs now, okay? He's won a Defensive Player of the Year. I think Giannis, it's safe to say Giannis is the 5th best player in basketball. So LeBron, KD, Steph, Kawhi, Giannis are my top 5 in all of basketball. Number 6, I think Luka is very deserving of number 6 at this point, so Luka will be the 6th best player. I will put James Harden over. I will put James Harden. Sorry, I completely forgot about Anthony Davis. I'm sorry. Oh shoot, I like Luka better than Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is gonna have to go to number 7, guys. Man, that's tough. That's tough. Yep. So LeBron, KD, Steph, Kawhi, Giannis, AD. No, Giannis, Luka. Luka's at number 6. AD's at number 7. I'm sorry. So AD's at number 7. Then we have James Harden at number 8. Then we have Damian Lillard at number 9. And then we have Nikola Jokic at number 10. Boom. That's my top 10. We'll go through it again. LeBron, Kevin Durant, Steph, Kawhi, Giannis, Luka, AD, James Harden, Damian Lillard, and Nikola Jokic. Those are the 10 best players in order in all of basketball. Again, ESPN's list had it LeBron, AD, Giannis, Luka, Kawhi, Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, James Harden, and Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic, you stay right there at number 10, big man. You're definitely the 10th best player in basketball. It's still, my list quite different. LeBron, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, AD, James Harden, Damian Lillard, and Nikola Jokic. Those are your 10 players in order, your best players in basketball. Okay, guys? So again, we were expecting to do the Eastern Conference today. Did not quite have time to do so because West took so long. But hey, it's the best conference in basketball. Can you blame me for spending that much time discussing the best conference in basketball? I can't blame myself. You can't blame me for that. Again, those are my top 10 players in basketball. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Whatever platform you're listening on, Spotify, Spreaker, whatever platform you're listening on, leave us a comment or review of what you thought of today's show, what you thought of my top 10 list. So leave us a comment or review, whatever platform you're listening on. Go follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, all your social medias. And as always, thank you for your continued support here at GSMC. I really appreciate all of you who continue to listen to me here at the Podcast Network Mondays and Thursdays. I've been here consistently for you, so thank you all for the consistent support. I will see you all once again on Thursday. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.